What's good, cannabis investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan, and today we're coming at you with This Week in Cannabis News from June 24th to the 30th. Now, before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learn something, please just leave a like on it as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos. And then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. Try to think of these videos as a time capsule. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so that you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the U.S. cannabis industry, identify top U.S. MSOs that you keep seeing pop up that you think will be worth more in the future than they are now, based on their current market caps and the potential of new markets coming online, and take advantage whenever you feel ready if you wish to do so. And unfortunately, we are still waiting for Ohio, despite being told that they're going to move quickly. And so good news though, 34 more provisional licenses issued to dispensaries in Ohio today. So this link will be in the comments for anyone to check out. 65 of 125 dispos in Ohio now have provisional licenses from the state, but 0 official certificate of operations have been issued yet. Maybe next week by July 4th, maybe after July 4th. Waiting is tough, but the process is moving. So just happy to report that. And then 15 more provisional licenses were issued in the afternoon. So while people are annoyed, it seems like it's those in Ohio that obviously are the most frustrated. And so just to show you this, you might want to grab the link and click it yourself because it's very small. But this is the first image. And then this one with the 15 additional licenses. Again, not certificates of operation yet, but next best thing until the floodgates open. So that is for Ohio. While from ATB on U.S. Cannabis, thanks Todd for sharing so I could share it with all of you. Ohio does have a population of 11.76 million people, and that's more than Michigan at 10 million, the hottest cannabis market in the country right now, while Florida has a vote in November and Pennsylvania could see legalization soon. And so ATB wants to show us which dispensaries and MSOs will benefit the most, total number of operating dispensaries, what percentage of dispensaries are in Ohio, what percentage are in Florida, and what percentage are in Pennsylvania. And so what is to come once these three markets officially come online? And remember, Ohio is potentially a few weeks away, as we've been told. But onto that, some state sales data. Illinois adult use cannabis monthly sales figures as of June 27th, recently updated. So good news is that May did jump back up from April, which typically it doesn't. We usually see the big spike in March and then again in July. But I think that's promising. While it did sell less total items than in April, 113.1 million from in-state, 33.1 million from out-of-state, for a total of 146.2 million, and then comparing that to last May, up from 132, significantly more items. So gotta love that. Links will be in the comments. While from New Cannabis Ventures, Michigan cannabis sales slow again, although Allen's just a douchebag because they increased 0.4% from April. So sure, they're slowing, but up 13.7% from last year, still at 280 million, give or take, USD. So gotta love what they're doing in Michigan and how they're setting the example here. While you can see the breakdown, obviously med sales go down when you can just get your medicinal cannabis from a dispensary because it's the same damn thing. Prices or product breakdown here, sorry, for anyone that is interested. Of course, you can pause to read or grab the links below. While another fascinating aspect is that Michigan was one of the few states to actually offer equal access to opportunity instead of bullshit equity, and in doing so, many licenses, a lot of competition, thus driving the price of legal flower down very, very low. And for that reason, we're seeing more consumers likely buying from the legal market because it's cheaper and getting more bang for their buck than going online or to any illicit sources. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Canada. It took so long to get, enough supply, but now there's such an oversupply, and essentially it is actually cheaper to buy from the legal stores than online or illicit and pay the excess cost for shipping, essentially. So link in the comments if you wanted to learn more. Well, from Maryland, overview of their latest month as of May 2024, total sales reached approximately 93.4 million, with significant year-over-year growth of 126.2 million and month-over-month growth of 1.3%. Nice to see this up from April, which again isn't one of the big months like March, July, or December. You'd think it would be, and often it is sometimes if new markets turn on, say, for April, but even growth from April is highlighting that people want to vote for legal cannabis with their dollars in any new market that comes online. And so all these links will be in the comments. While Missouri sales see uptick in May, love to see it, and I know I'm a bit old on this, so I do apologize, but Missouri reaches 2.5 billion in cumulative sales of legal cannabis, probably since they launched, and sales this past month, 123.7 million in retail in May, up 3% over April, similar to what we saw in Maryland. We'd want to see that up from April as opposed to down. June will probably be a lull, but then July is typically where we see that jump up. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read for a further breakdown, but we got lots of news to go through. And so I'll just to try and put things into perspective for you, total cannabis sales in Michigan for May, not April, this is a typo, 280 million USD. Total cannabis sales in Canada for April, 428 million Canadian, or just 313 million USD. So things are just going to get more entertaining and more interesting. And again, as a reminder, Michigan only has a population of 10.3 million people. Ohio population, obviously, 11.76. And then if we want to look at Pennsylvania population for what's to come, 12.97. Oh, and while we're even on it, Florida population. Nice. Very nice. Lots to look forward to, folks. And so with that, do the right thing, sharing something as of June 26th. In addition to the new digital ad campaign, the Biden campaign created this page on cannabis reform 3 days ago. And so clearly it's campaign season, and they need to try and get more young voters on their side, especially after that shit show of a debate performance. And so just to show you the page, obviously all these links will be in the comments. Doesn't tell us anything that we don't know. Obviously, we wish there was more definitive information to be like, yeah, this is the shit we're actually getting done. Here's the real progress and yada yada. But can't necessarily expect that from big bureaucratic government, unfortunately. But with that, from Do the Right Thing, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that I think it's got a chance again because this carrot has been dangled for too long. But safe banking in the lame duck period is a lock, according to Anthony's sources. We'd hope that to be the case. Now, keep in mind, though, these same sources are the ones that gave us info about the OLC memo and the timing of the proposed rule, and that source was correct. So that makes us more hopeful that we might get safe, obviously because it's good policy that should have fucking passed 10 years ago. Nonetheless, better late than never, if that ever does happen. A big development from the Supreme Court on Friday, which I think very few might have been expecting, but according to On Drugs, this is the biggest drug policy decision of the last 50 years from the Supreme Court. I don't know about that just because I'm not a trained lawyer and reading this is kind of gibberish to me, but wanted to share that at least the person that runs On Drugs is the same lawyer that helped get the HHS document that admitted cannabis was medicine officially redacted for us. So want to take their word for it. And of course, I've been trying to learn and trying to figure this out. Now, just to point out, H.L. Mencken seems pretty confident that on the case of rescheduling of cannabis, HHS Gov has the authority with US FDA to declare currently accepted medical use. And then the DEA, HQ, and the Attorney General has the authority to decide schedule based on CAMU and risks. Now, keep in mind, DEA is technically DOJ. So that's where this can get tricky, and I'm not exactly sure if this is actually good for cannabis or not. So if you understand this better, let me know in the comments. But a few other posts that I found for a bit of context. Would love to hear more on this. So given that 21 USC 802 fails to list specific drugs, and that there are several state-level laws specifically legalizing cannabis, did SCOTUS inadvertently legalize cannabis by undermining the DEA's authority to classify drugs based solely on vague and subjective rubric? Now, keep in mind, from my understanding, is it not the FDA that kind of labels what's medical use or not? And then, again, it's the DOJ. DEA is technically part of the DOJ. So, again, I'm just picking at straws. I'm not exactly sure. Let me know in the comments, but would love to try and get some sort of definitive answer as to what this all could mean. Well, last one from WeedShoot 420. Could the AG from DOJ signing the rescheduling rule instead of the DEA administrator, and this is sort of where I got that from, be intentional due to the potential overturning of Chevron deference, which is just the idea that, oh, the DEA is not going to have that ability anymore. Fair enough. That's why the DOJ signed it, because the DEA is a branch of the larger Department of Justice. Isn't it a seal of approval beyond agency statutory interpretations? Maybe endorsement at a higher level could strengthen the case in judicial review and court challenges. And so some people seem to think that's most likely. And of course, the OLC opinion holds a lot of weight, and we're just waiting on Garland to sign a 2.0 memo. So let me know what you think in the comments. But I'm just thinking out loud, trying to figure this out with y'all along the way. Well, more unexpected news as the Brazil Supreme Court decriminalizes cannabis possession, which is huge as they aim to alleviate overcrowding in prisons driven by minor drug offenses, which is obviously a waste of resources and space ultimately, because no one should be in jail for consuming a miracle plant that we really don't know the first thing about, hence why we ought to deschedule and catch up on the 50 years of research we've missed. Only comment I'd make is it doesn't seem like there's a plan to create a commercial market, and so of course it's not going to be legal dollars going back into growing the legal economy. It's likely whoever has a strong foothold in the illicit cannabis operations is just going to get a stronger foothold and have a head start. So we'll update you more if there's any sort of development on a legal market coming through, but sources Washington Post, or at least this guy Mario Nafal. All links are in the comments. While from the NCAA, DI Council votes to remove cannabinoids from banned drug class for championships and postseason participation in football. It's about damn time. They've been talking about this for years. Decision not final until meeting concludes Wednesday, and I do believe that concluded. I can definitely update you, but good to see them follow the NFL, the NBA, Germany, and now we just need the World Anti-Doping Agency and then the U.S. fucking government to follow along, and it would make the world a much better place. Well, from Weetree 420, yikes, what happens to full year 2024 tax refunds if rescheduling is finalized only in full year 2025? Asking for a friend. Now I just had to share this because, of course, with the good news, got to share the potential bad as well, but this comes from, I don't know exactly who the source is. This looks like AP. I'm going to try and find this source and put the link in the comments because I'd rather share it than obviously Marijuana Moment. But this tweet comes from a shitty headline for clicks that Tom shared as the IRS published a reminder that the 280 tax penalty on cannabis businesses still applies until rescheduling is finalized. Bullshit. The IRS just wants to keep discriminating as they ought to, and the fact that any Americans are okay with paying the tax rate that we pay now is insane. 1776 happened because they were like, I don't want to pay 2% tax. And now we're giving up how much? And no one seems to give a shit? Mind-blowing. Adding that some cannabis companies are already filing amended returns to get refunds, but that these claims are not valid. So who knows? More fear, uncertainty, and doubt, but just had to share this because it's definitely worth thinking about. A banger of a podcast that I recommend all of you to listen to. The link will be down in the comments. So thank you, The Dime, for having Boris on as we hear about Curaleaf's European breakout and Boris Jordan's strategy for the hemp company. And so a lot here. I'm not going to try and summarize it at all, but I did listen to it yesterday. And it's just great to hear that Boris is many steps ahead of a lot, it seems like. And while I don't have a position in Curaleaf, it certainly makes me want to consider that in the next few months if I can do so. But I'm not saying that I will as of yet. And so with that, Pablo Zuanic will have Boris on Monday at 4 p.m. And so, of course, anyone that's interested, just a reminder that this will be taking place then. And I'll certainly feature a recap and summary of that in my next week's video. Well, just wanted to share this as more developments from Curaleaf releasing their hemp company line. Someone named Nelly just ordered fast-acting gummies from Curaleaf, shipped to the great state of Georgia, my first purchase of a Curaleaf product. This is a big day. They even made me take a pic of my ID to prove that I'm old. And we love to see that because, of course, we want to put regulations in place to ensure the public health and safety of everyone. And that seems to be why cannabis had to be illegal and criminalized for so long, because public safety, which is obviously horseshit. And so while there are many deviants taking advantage of the Farm Bill loophole and selling crap and saying it has the same effects of cannabis, love to see that Curaleaf, even when selling hemp, is making sure that it's going to legal people old enough to buy it, and at the same time making sure they're selling safe and tested products. So that's, I think, what responsible adults want to be getting behind. While from the Dank Informer onwards and upwards, doing more DD, which we love. Trying to share this as an example of the point I made in the last slide, is the majority of the existing hemp industry will not be able to compete due to the simple fact that they are deliberately not performing the safety test panels. And sure, they can get away with this at some point, but it's got to give. And that's why we're seeing AGs snap back in Colorado and Massachusetts, for example. One can only assume it is because their products are probably full of pesticides and other unsafe molecules, which you don't want to be buying and you don't want to be putting in your body. And so I will put this press release from Curaleaf in the comments as well, but just happy to share that at least they're doing their best to be transparent. And that's all you can really hope for as time goes on, because less and less people are fucking doing that, sadly. Well, from Pablo, global cannabis companies, we launch coverage today of Tilray and Aurora, two companies poised to benefit from the growth in the global medical cannabis industry. And so links to each, I'll put those in the comments, one for Tilray and one for Aurora. But the main thing is what exposure will they have in Germany, and how quickly is Germany moving along and getting to that potential commercial market, because they've realized, oh shit, we should be bringing in legal dollars and allowing people to spend legal money on it, as opposed to just allowing an illicit market to try and steal that market share, as it's always done. Then what's the point of legalizing? Obviously, so that you're not criminalizing. But all that to point out, good news out of Germany, as cannabis sales have increased 2x since April already, and it's only the end of June, the market is still severely undersupplied. And so just to give you an update from Cannabis Europa, from this guy Benedict Sons and George Scorsis, essentially just highlighting supply and demand. They want more. We are undersupplied in Germany, but the capital access is changing now. I'm pretty sure we won't have the same issues as Canada did, fortunately, because they can import a lot of the excess weed we have. We've had about 2x uplift in the market since April when it comes to sales, important when it comes to bringing investors in. We're no longer looking at the public markets for capital. We're looking for alternatives, and it's smarter money. Now we all have a producer of responsibility. We need to be more pragmatic. And so I think that sounds promising. While there is a bigger write-up from the New Indian Express as legal weed limps into next phase of Germany. So Blutzwitz, I don't know if that's right, a Berlin-based startup specializing in cannabis products, hopes that Germany will eventually authorize the sale of the drug in pharmacies or licensed shops. Right, so that seems to be the direction they're heading in. And keep in mind, Tilray does own a pharmaceutical distribution chain in Germany that has since been losing the money since buying the company, but in the long run, the hope is that that will pay off. And so with that, why is cannabis going global? Well, because it's the miracle medicine that we've been sleeping on all along. And so happy to share from Wiley Online Library, prevalence and correlates of daily level reasons not to drink among young adults who use alcohol. And so this was a study first published June 2023, fresh off the press from 2024. Study examined reasons not to drink in young adults. Main thing to point out is results. On days when another drug was used instead of alcohol, 81.8% used cannabis. Boom. You can't make that shit up. And so, while findings suggest that reasons not to drink reflect personal decisions and highlight ways to acknowledge situational barriers. Yeah, the personal decision to use cannabis instead of alcohol because it's a much healthier substance, and that reflects the larger trends that the study fails to add or shed any light on, is that more people are moving to cannabis from alcohol, and that is a massive fucking public health victory, I would say. Well, we've got this one from earth.com, a very unexpected one, but it is in line with a study from 1975, which I will try and pull and put in the comments, about breastfeeding and cannabis use. Nonetheless, as prenatal cannabis exposure has positive unexpected effects on infant language, they conveniently leave that out, as the researchers found that infants exposed to cannabis in the womb showed improved language development by their first birthday. What the heck? This discovery highlights an intriguing aspect of early childhood neurodevelopment, though experts caution against cannabis use during pregnancy due to known risks and unknown long-term effects. Yeah, of course experts are going to say that because they don't fucking know anything, because the idiots that have been abiding by the bullshit that has not allowed us to study cannabis for how long up until now, and look what we're finding out. Bah! It's absolutely so frustrating. And so there's more here, but I just wanted to obviously link the actual study. So I advise you to pause to read if you're interested. It's fucking fascinating, and the results obviously speak for themselves. More research is needed. But yeah, main thing to highlight, preclinical studies. And so this is that study, prenatal cannabinoid exposure and early language development. What is the date on this? Oh, from 2023. So it's actually a bit older. Can't believe I missed this. Preclinical studies have shown abnormal brain connectivity in offspring exposed to cannabis, affecting emotional regulation, hyperactivity, and language development. Results from this study link PCE to altered early language development within the first year of life. Exposed infants demonstrated increased expressive and receptive language scores at 12 months of age, which can translate to better performance in school and faster development, and further research obviously is needed to determine implications. But it seems as if cannabis is ingested and then goes to the child as opposed to smoked, seems like there's less health concerns for the mother, and then they're still possibly getting the benefits of this miracle plant that we still don't really understand fully how it works. So I think that's fascinating. Link in the comments. Let me know what you think, though, because damn, we need more studies that just shatter the old paradigm. While Science Direct, chemical compounds, anti-tumor and anti-neuropathic pain effect of hemp essential oil in vivo. And so pause to read if you're interested, but the main thing to point out is that the results reveal that HEO, or hemp essential oil, not derived hemp essential oil, but the basic CBD stuff, plays a role not only in tumor chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy treatment, but also in anti-tumor treatment, which offers key information for new strategies in cancer treatment and provides reference for the medicinal development of hemp. Fascinating. And so, of course, CBD, lots of potential, while at the same time THC from the female medical plant, lots of potential as well. Well, from cannabishealthnews.co.uk, I did actually feature this study, the raw one, in my last week's video, which you can grab for reference. I'll put it in the comments as well, but older adults report considerable improvements with medical cannabis. Well, if we actually give a shit about our parents and our elders, we would be introducing them to the best medicinal non-addictive alternative that we have available. It seems to work wonders for old people. Now get this, older patients were also more likely to report chronic pain as their primary condition, probably because they're old and they've been taking pills most of their lives. And I wonder if this pill habit contributes to chronic pain, but at the same time also it probably contributes to why on beginning treatment, older patients reported significantly poorer quality of life until they meet cannabis and general health, but were less likely to have either used cannabis or report using it daily, either because they're too afraid to tell the truth, because the stigma or the propaganda really worked for them. But main thing here is you can pause to read. It just seems that older people certainly prefer CBD if they've never used cannabis before. And then over time with CBD, if they're more willing to try, they get more experience with THC products. And so a bit more here if you wanted to pause to read. Otherwise, full link is in the comments. But the most fascinating thing I found all week, and big ups to Wim Hof for pointing this out. Now, the title of this is They're Lying to You About Disease and Inflammation. Now, we can speculate all we want, but if you've watched my video over time, or my videos over time, we've seen many studies that talk about how whether it's CBD and cannabidiol or THC and tetrahydrocannabinol, or the endocannabinoid system working with consuming the cannabis plant, it seems to have some sort of a reduction effect on inflammation in the body. Now, long story short, I'm just going to let him talk because I don't want to butcher it, but listen up. I put it on 1.5 to speed it up a little bit because he talks a bit slow, but here.
Yeah, just by thinking.
Yes, about that, we are thinking too much. And we know something is wrong inside, but we cannot connect with that. Now, if we change the patterns we normally go into with our breathing and thinking, which goes paired, which controls our heart.
And right, if you're not breathing, your mind is usually just running, thinking, right? And then if you can pull yourself out of that, it stops the running and the thinking. That's just from my personal experience. It does seem to work.
It's conditioning. If we are into that conditioning and we start simply, and that makes it so beautiful that it is so simple, and how it then subtly is able to get into this thought to regulate our mood in the depth is by cannabinoid receptors.
Cannabinoid receptors, maybe from the endocannabinoid system. Who knows? But hearing him drop this during the week, I was like, holy shit, we're connecting more and more dots. Right?
So. The last study we did is a landmark study. A landmark study done by Professor Vaibhav Divakar in Detroit. And it shows that the cannabinoid receptors are a part of the salient network. The salient network is that what makes all the networks in the brain.
So it sounds like he's talking about the endocannabinoid system without officially stating it.
Work together. And with that, we get a hold of areas we normally don't have connection to. So what the breathing does in the depth is activating the connectors in the body called cannabinoid receptors, by which deeper realities of our physiology open up. And that is a natural thing to happen when we are in peace, no longer in the trauma.
And then have you heard the term homeostasis, which cannabis helps, or the endocannabinoid system helps bring our body back into homeostasis, in balance, when we don't have stress, or at ease, which would be the opposite of dis-ease, which means when you're sick, not in balance?
In the accident, no, now we are in peace. Now we should be able to work out what has been stored up. That is a natural capacity of ours to do that, but we have never learned in our society, in our schooling, how to do it. And not even in psychiatry. They give you pills and they give you medicines, and it makes a lot of money, but it doesn't solve the problem. People...
Right, and didn't we see a study last week just saying how CBD could be the future of psychiatry? And it's like, it's always been here. We just put something that didn't work as effectively and made a small group of people a shit ton of money in place in the first place. So nonsense. Anyways, the study that he referenced to, the Michigan one, I'm going to try and find that, and that will be in the comments as well with the rest of everything mentioned. While last study from PubMed, potential of cannabidiol as acne and acne scar treatment, novel insights into molecular pathways of pathophysiological factors. As of June 21st, 2024, abstract, CBD, which is derived from hemp, which gained recognition because of its anti-inflammatory on that topic and lipid modulating properties that could be utilized to treat acne. And so we conducted experiments, yada, yada, yada. Pause to read if you're interested. These findings emphasize the potential of CBD for the management of acne because of its anti-inflammatory, apoptotic, and lipid inhibitory effects, notably the modulation of the AKT-AMPK-SREBP1 pathway, revealed a novel and promising mechanism that could address the pathogens of acne. The more we study it, the more we know this miracle plant. And it sounds like this has come out of South Korea because they would be researching CBD to be the #1 leader in skincare products, because that's just how Korea does it. MSO news as Verano expands Cabbage Club, its disruptive retail membership that I've never heard of, to Connecticut, Maryland, and Michigan, likely because I'm in Canada, and I just don't download apps. While after a successful rollout in New Jersey and Illinois, they're now expanding to these new markets to offer exclusive, members-only savings, deals, and experiences. And so it's a certain type of person that'll just download a new app to save a little bit of money, but no doubt they want to go after the ones that will, that happen to like Verano the best. And so tech is definitely a disruptor, and I'm sure it will be in many more ways to come in this industry. And so more here if you wanted to pause to read if you're interested or a shareholder. While scrolling down, it seems like these are annual memberships, so you pay $149 a year. You get a credit every month plus some certain different deals. We'll pay $249 for the quarter membership. And then it seems like there's also a silver dollar club that you only qualify for if you're a sort of top spender, most likely over time. And so that seems to just be the way of the future for selling stuff. Well, from Air Wellness, Cannabis Dispensary strengthens Illinois retail presence with opening of Hometown Dispensary. So they've opened another one. Its third retail location in Illinois and 92nd nationwide. So love to see that. More information here if you wanted to pause to read. If you are an Air Wellness shareholder, you can grab the link in the comments to read the full scoop. Well, on to state news from the Colorado Sun, just recapping more studies that I have shared this one before, though it shuts prohibitionists up, and it tells us what happens when you end prohibition once and for all, as a decade after legal pot shops opened, teen cannabis use is going down in Colorado. Love to see it. Lowest percentage of high schoolers since at least 2013 reported using cannabis, according to the latest Healthy Kids Colorado survey. Now, I've featured this already, but the raw results, I will put them in the comments as well, just so that if you didn't see my video from a few weeks ago, you can reference that. But all prohibitionists do is lie and spread bullshit. And the good news is that we're actually performing the studies and collecting the data that would prove them wrong all along, and that's why we're so close to Schedule 3 and seeing the discrimination end and the normalization prosper. Well, out of Pennsylvania, changes proposed to adult use of cannabis in Pennsylvania. This came as of the 26th, updated, so Pennsylvania's first bipartisan bill for adult use cannabis has been introduced in the House. Now, keep in mind, still very early, and PA has taken forever to get the shit done. But main thing to point out is a few things that the new bill highlights. And realistically, why this needs to happen is officials say over 33,000 jobs would be created. I think the other story I shared last week was 45,000, and it would deliver $420 million in annual tax revenue. They got to try and be humorous. Well, the other one said 2.5 billion in sales, I think. But yeah, every politician here is realizing that they need to get their asses to work on this because they're losing tax dollars to every other legal state around them. PA is the last island of prohibition, sadly. And so from Christopher Norman, our favorite source out of New Jersey, I will put this link in the comments as well, but New Jersey hits 150 cannabis stores at the end of Q2, up from 117 at the end of Q1, so good to see them ramping up. Still looks like Canada in the early days, though. It's just, why are you handicapping yourself? Open another 150, and another 150, and another 150 per month, like Canada did. One of the few things that Canada did right that other states could follow. Well, from Green Market Report, New York's Office of Cannabis Management distracted with over 20 lawsuits. I don't feel bad at all for harping on them for however many years. They've deserved it. Virtually all aspects of the MRTA are vulnerable to lawsuits because it's bullshit. And we've seen that play out over time. Unfortunately, we're seeing what makes America great is the ability to fight back when you've been wrongfully played with or exposed, or you should say extorted is probably the best word. And so with that, more here if you wanted to pause to read, but there's so many cases that they broke them down into 7 subject areas. The conditional adult use retail dispensary program cases, the social and economic equity program cases, extra priority status cases, location approval and proximity protection cases, queue review process cases, validity of the MRTA cases, and then enforcement against non-compliant illicit operator. Of the 20 cases, 12 were active at this time. Another Leafly case, so much at risk, but this is what happens when you create a faulty Office of Cannabis Management that was never built to create equal access to opportunity to everyone that wanted it in the first place. It was designed to bring socialist policy into the New York adult use legal cannabis market and destroy it from the inside out. That is essentially what the Office of Cannabis Management tried to do. Unfortunately, though, this is America, and you get called out for being an asshole, hence why we're finally seeing people get fired and hopefully see them replaced by more competent individuals that will bring New York's cannabis market, the legal adult use one, back from the dead. Well, I had to share this from the Dank Informer as it's an interesting write-up from Texas Monthly, but again, it took us way too long to realize that with the Farm Bill loophole, cannabis, I say it with buzzwords because it's certainly not the female cannabis plant that the medicine provides, so maybe I'll say marijuana in this case, was legalized though, although it's not actual marijuana, but Texas has basically legalized it since 2018. Here's the proof. Prohibitionists in shambles as they realize that hemp equals cannabis. And anyways, an interesting read if any of you did want to go through that. But main thing to highlight is testing of smokable hemp at 8 dispensaries around the state found that all were selling cannabis with potent levels of the psychoactive compound THC. They don't necessarily distinguish whether this is hemp-derived or it's actually real THC or Delta-9 THC, the one that comes naturally from the female cannabis plant. But all that to point out, it seems like cannabis is just getting normalized in more and more states, and we're at that tipping point. And man, the day that Texas were to flip and go adult use, that would be massive. And so I'll put the link to this article in the comments if you want to read it. Well, a few more updates from MJ Biz Daily out of Florida to license more black cannabis farmers. It would be great if they gave an abundance or equal access to opportunity, but apparently only 3 black farmers in Florida are eligible. Based on a bill Gov. DeSantis recently signed into law. So good for them. Those 3 get a head start, and hopefully this will change their lives. Well, the adult use campaign has now reached 60 million, according to a campaign finance database. And so, of course, this is going to be difficult because what they're competing against is DeSantis in the hemp industry wanting to handcuff the legal adult use industry. That's actually a public health victory in Florida and changing the status quo for the better, providing that safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative. And so more on the black farmers, and the state officials received applications from 12 so-called Pigford candidates and got 3 of them named, and so those 3 will benefit, while Trulieve set spending record by itself. Other MSOs active in the state that have contributed: Verano 2.25, Curaleaf 2 million, Air Wellness 500K, Green Thumb 500K, Cresco Labs 400K. So if Florida goes adult use in November of 2024 and then officially launches in 2025, you know who we have to thank for the majority of that effort. And so with that, from the Dank Informer as well, looking at sales in Florida's medical market for this past week from June 21st to the 27th. Now just to jump down to the total qualified patients, up to 883,567. Keep in mind, big population in Florida, 22 million, and lots of tourists visit there every year. Highlights: 3 new locations opened up: GTI Florida LLC in Tallahassee, Sunburn in Panama City Beach, and then Trulieve Madison and Trulieve Panama City. So 2 new stops from Trulieve this past week. Didn't catch a press release for that though, so maybe that I just missed it. But with that, the visual. So total flower sales by ounces by company this past week. Of course, you can see the breakdown by chart. Thank you to the Dank Informer for doing this. As you do, total THC sales in milligrams by company this past week. Excuse me. Pause to read. While total CBD sales in milligrams by company this past week. You can pause to read. While total dispensing locations by company. See who's leading the way and see which MSO you might want to have exposure to for when adult use launches, most likely August 2025, if Florida flips in November. Well, I'm sorry I have to share these bastards, but they're the only ones publishing a story like this. Delaware lawmakers send cannabis banking bill to governor's desk. So some relief coming to those MSOs and mom and pop shops in Delaware. The Delaware Senate has approved a House bill, so that goes to the governor's desk. I'll update you when it is signed. All that to point out, predatory 280E should never have been allowed in the first place, of course. It's essentially effectively making these companies work for the government and not for themselves, which is very un-American and very fascist and socialist. We're finally seeing that now, how it was designed to try and end up functioning, but fortunately the American way is winning, as we're seeing many markets overshadow it, like Maryland, Missouri, specifically Michigan as well. All that to point out, hopefully relief is coming sooner than later, and I will update you once that goes into effect. Full link in the comments. While from Forbes, Kentucky, 2 open applications for medical cannabis businesses early, which is great news. And while I shared in my last week's video that they're going to vote in November to determine where cannabis medicinally can be sold in Kentucky, and then January 1st, 2025, med will go into effect. But the update here is Bashir announced Thursday that the Kentucky Medical Cannabis Program will begin accepting license applications for med businesses starting Monday, July 1st, 6 months ahead of the original schedule. And so that's promising, as starting January 1, patients with qualifying conditions such as cancer, MS, chronic pain, epilepsy, chronic nausea, or post-traumatic stress disorder can begin the process of applying for medical cannabis cards. And so I guess I apologize. I thought that January 1st was going to be when it was available for sale, but it seems as if January 1st would have been when they can apply for medical. And so now the good news is that is moved up to July 1st. So great. Hopefully their medical market will then launch before January 1st of 2025. So those in Kentucky get access to a safer, non-addictive medicinal alternative they should have had all along. And so with that, last few stories from Wheat Street 420, short interest seems to be decreasing, which is interesting because then wouldn't the share price go back up? I don't know. I don't know how that necessarily works. But Thanks for the visual, as short interest is down to the lowest level since August 2023, and that is when we got the leak that the U.S. government has officially admitted that cannabis is an effective medicine with medicinal value. And so it's worth noting. We've come a very long way, but note from the last month. From May 15th, 19.8 million short shares outstanding. May 31st, 15.7 million. And then as of June 14th, 13.5 million. And so why does this lead for more days to cover than this? Although this is less shares than this, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know more about this or if you can connect more dots, because of course I'm not an expert in finance. I just like to look at some of this stuff and learn as I go. While Shortdata.ca, can we check this? Sure, let's do it. Largest short positions, Canadian Securities Exchange. And it does seem like we're seeing a net change in some of the bigger MSOs as well. So take from that what you will. It does still make me wonder that if shorts are going down, shouldn't the price be going back up as those shorts close their position? Please let me know if you understand that better in layman's terms. Help me out. I would appreciate that. But lastly, folks, just to highlight, of course, what we already know. Canada's shown it, as many legal states have. But when you end prohibition, people get access to another substance like tobacco, like alcohol, that happens to be safer, happens to have less side effects that carry over to the next day, which leads many to the logical conclusion that, shit, life's hard and sometimes we need to take the edge off and we need a vice. And this vice is superior to these other ones, especially because I'd love to be sober, but the one issue I have is I just can't fall asleep at night. And then when I can't fall asleep that one night and I'm up tossing and turning till 3 or 4 a.m. until I finally fall asleep, it affects the next day, and then it affects the next day. And so all that to point out is that cannabis certainly is superior to the other substances. We know that. And then when you end prohibition and take the floodgates off, we see alcohol sales slowly stagnate and go down, and we see cannabis sales go up. Now, a big driver of this is the number of stores, because up until about this point, Canada only had 200 stores around the whole country. I know, it's insane. No, maybe 500, but only 200 or less in Ontario, the most populated province. And then from here to about here, we saw Ontario open 120 stores a month. Now they have over 1,000, which is in line with the number of LCBO stores or beer stores or liquor stores that we have in Ontario as well. And so the main point is it took us that long to get to the same number of stores, but no doubt what's going to happen when you have as many cannabis stores as liquor stores available, well, we're likely going to see the cannabis sales soar and go up, and then the liquor continue to stay stagnant and then likely go down over time. And the best part is, as we collect more data like this from states and other countries that legalize, it shuts the prohibitionists up, because this is clearly a massive public health victory. When you have less people consuming alcohol, therefore less alcohol deaths, less car crashes, less bullshit from alcohol that you don't get from cannabis, because that's the truth. And the more you know, eh? That is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the episodes mentioned? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. But besides that, if you enjoyed this video and you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you next week for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care.